Hello, my name is Osha. I like to talk about history. I've been discussing the US Israeli Iran war, and there's a tremendous amount of virtue signaling that goes on in America. And so I'm not Iranian, right? That's obvious. Well, I don't know if there are actually black people like me in Iran that are Iranians. By the way, there was actually a time, was it during the golden age of Islam when the Shiites were actually, this is a digression, this is a sidebar, when they were overthrowing the hold of the Abbasids in Iran, um, and the satraps, were now trying to reestablish Persian rule. One of the viziers or the caliphs, right, who was actually based in the area that's Iran today, had used African bodyguards in his military force. There were this special elite forces of Africans. I'm sure these people over time intermarried. And so you probably find there's African DNA that's also mixed with Iranians, by the way. That was a sidebar. But in any event, I was addressing, um, you know, the pearl clutching, going on the internet, virtue signaling, which we do a lot here. And of course, people, it's not my intent to give offense when I discuss history. There are many reasons why Iran is very relevant to discuss, especially for someone like me. I do have 2 degrees in history, and of course, I have a law degree. I did international human rights law, and so this is a humanitarian crisis. War is, I address war, right? I address war. I address violations of international law. So this is it's a it's a humanitarian crisis. That's what's going on right now. So that's apart from that, there are many different reasons. Furthermore, I've discussed how I was actually a victim of a swatting, right? Of police brutality in my home. So as of that day, when I was a victim of police brutality through a false crisis call in my home, I was actually an auditor in the Department of the U.S. Navy. Worked in the Department of Defense, and I was actually going. I was a civilian, right? Because I was an auditor, been an analyst, but I was, as of that day, during that period, and this is still open. I was in the process of actually transitioning to joining the military side. So, hey, had it not been for this crisis going on in Montgomery County, the false malicious prosecution I'm facing, which I've discussed, I've done videos on that. Excuse me. I would have probably been one of those buddies that would have been sent, to go to war. So, um, in any event, I have family. I'm sure I have family somewhere in America who are signed up in the U.S. military. I come from a very large family. I'll probably talk about my family one day. One of my cousins, my second cousin, is my blood cousin. He's a U.S. Marine vet, right? He's permanently disabled now as a result of his service to the U.S. Marine. So, of course, that matters. Plus, I'm an American citizen, right? I'm an American citizen. Um, here is my own U.S. passport, right? That's my U.S. passport right there. I blue. So you see, I cover my mouth. My mouth and my lips are not to be covered, right? As an American citizen, right? I I have my First Amendment rights, right? So it's my First Amendment rights to discuss topics, right? So I have a First Amendment right to discuss matters, right? I'm not going to say anything defamatory, right? Again, and I'm trained in history to do it. I actually took courses in history of the Middle East, right? And as I mentioned, I've lived and worked with Iranians, right? who've educated me. So again, it's not my intent at all to uh, say anything that's disparaging or take one side against, or talk about the or to defame anyone. I'm not defaming anybody, but I'm putting things in historical context. If you notice, I talk a lot about the history of Iranian civilization and things like that. So again, I have a First Amendment right to discuss, to talk as an American citizen, and of course, it's my taxpayer money. I've paid a lot of taxes to this country, despite the fact that I'm being held. I've been held now, wrongfully detained, prevented, blackballed wrongfully for the past 3 years. But I've been paying taxes in this country for over 20 years, right? So it adds up to something. And what's interesting is I've never received a cent in welfare. I've never received, I'm entitled to unemployment income, but the DOD does some kind of fraud because I haven't received a penny of unemployment income. So it's my savings that I've used, I've depleted, and so it's astonishing. But in any event, I was just trying to clarify the grounds for my being able to talk about a culture that's not my own. Significantly, Iran is a World Heritage. It's home to several World Heritage landmarks, and I guess many of us can say it's some form of World Heritage, just as many of us see Israel as some sort of World Heritage because of the great monotheisms that we inherited, which is part of our values, our culture, right? In Western civilization, that's Judaism, Christianity, even Islam, right? Islam is from the tradition of the Abrahamic uh, culture, Abrahamic religions. So Israel and uh, uh, the Persian culture, civilization is no less significant. Words we use today, algorithm. I've done a video talking about how algorithm is Persian. Checkmate, that which we use as shamat, that's Persian. So many things are actually uh, uh, Persian. Algebra. I did mathematics major. Um, I did all, linear algebra, all of that. That's Persian. Algebra, that's Persian. So, and I'd love to travel. Uh, with America getting itself in uh, an unjust war, many Americans are liable to become victims of attacks, right, by foreigners if they travel. So I don't want to be kidnapped because I love to travel. I don't want to be attacked because my country is involved in an unjust war. I would love to visit Iran someday. I would have loved to visit the site of the great site of Susa, right? Susa is in it's in the book of Esther. That was the site of the location of the book of Esther. It was a great citadel. The site of Susa is still there, where the Great Achaemenid Empire was located. Its headquarters. It's one of its capitals. So many great empires had their capital. The Medians, the Medes, the Parthians. So many great historical landmarks and sites. Persepolis. I'd love to visit these historical landmarks someday. I hope they don't become rubble because of an ill-advised, unjust war waged by my country. So I hope this puts this matter to rest. But I'll keep discussing the great history and culture of Iran. My name is Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.